So hello everyone, and welcome to RBCM at Home Kids, a play date through screens across British Columbia and the world. My name's Chris O'Connor, and I'm a learning program developer here at the Royal BC Museum. My home and the museum is on the territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people, the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, here in Victoria, British Columbia. And I feel really privileged to be able to work here at this museum. And one of the things that I love about the museum is the second floor and the Natural History Gallery. And especially as the seasons are changing, and here in Victoria, even like it's a little foggy right now and it's cold, it's still kind of cold, but pretty soon we'll be coming out of winter and into spring. We came out of fall and into winter, and the seasons are really interesting and really a beautiful thing to register the environments and the habitats and the ecosystems that we live in British Columbia. And the Natural History Gallery is a way to sort of register that as well. And one of the areas which we'll get to at the end of this session, so this will be from 3 to 3:30. At the end of the session, we're going to go up to the Natural History Gallery. And we're going to specifically go to the forest part of the Natural History Gallery. So if you've been to the museum lately, or it's been a couple years, you'll know that there's a forest in the Natural History Gallery. We're going to explore a little bit up there. But when thinking about the forests, and actually a third of the Earth's surface is covered in forests. There are estimated 3 trillion trees in the world. Hard to count that many trees, but it's estimated to be about 3 trillion trees. That's a lot of trees, trillion with a T. Forests are really fascinating because they could be in both dry climates, dry areas, or in very wet areas like tropical forests, tropical rainforests. And they're also critical habitat for many plants and animals. So it's estimated that 80% of freshwater fish are dependent on forests, 60% of mammals, 50% of breeding birds are dependent on forests, 30% of reptiles. So the animals and plants are dependent on these environments that we call forests. So I wanted today's session to be sort of like a playful walking through the forest and exploring the forest floor. And one of the ways in which I was thinking it would be great to have a little mascot or have like a little friend to join us on the way. And if I'm looking the right way, our friend is a fox, the red fox, which is an amazing animal. There are many different kinds of foxes in the world. There are probably about 12 or so kinds of foxes. The red fox is the most common, and it could be found in so many parts of the world, from the Arctic to North America, to Europe, to parts of Asia, to North Africa, and even in Australia, though they are invasive species, but they are there in Australia. And one of the reasons, if you're looking at it right now, is if you look at that fox, and actually if you want, you can put in the chat or in the comment section of Facebook Live, what are some of the like superhero traits of a fox? Why do you think they could live in the Arctic and they could live all the way down here on Lekwungen territory or in BC, or they could live in North Africa? What is something about them that it's kind of like a superhero trait? So you can put that in the chat or in the comments section of Facebook Live. Or Kim, what do you think when you're looking at this? What do you think? What do you see about this fox that might have some superhero traits to it, or something that would make it survive in lots of different kinds of environments?
Well, when I was a kid, I used to like watching The Bionic Woman, and she had cool hearing, like and she could hear things coming up. And that fox has got some pretty great ears, so maybe it's good at hearing things.
That's right. They have they're actually, lots of people say that they have supersonic hearing because they can hear a little mouse from across the forest. When it's snowy out, they can actually hear what's happening underneath the snow. And you might see those pictures of the red foxes pouncing up in the air and then diving down into the snow. And that's because it's a really interesting thing about magnetic, the Earth's magnetic force that they're responding to, but then also hearing to those big ears, like you said. We got a comment in the chat saying furry coat. Yes, absolutely. And the coloration of foxes, because they could blend in. And in this image, you could see that this fox is kind of blending into the fallen leaves. And it's true that the fox's coats can vary a lot. And yeah, they can blend in. And that furry coat is so important, especially I said in the Arctic. There are red foxes in the Arctic. And actually, one of the things that I found is that red foxes don't shiver until it becomes -70 degrees Celsius. So before -70 degrees Celsius, they're like, oh, it's all good. I have my coat. I have my bushy tail. And then, but when it gets that cold, then most things are gonna shiver, and the red foxes are one. So, and they actually they do live sometimes in burrows, but they also like to sleep outside, and they just wrap themselves in their big bushy tail. So what we're gonna do first is we're going to do a little bit of a craft. And Kim put the supplies in the chat and on Facebook Live. And we're gonna make this little fox because it's so cute, and it can stand as well. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna start with a toilet paper roll like this, or it could be a paper towel, and you just need to cut it down. But the size you're looking for is about a toilet paper roll size. And then you're gonna take scissors, and the first thing to do is you're gonna flatten it a little bit just so it makes it easier to cut. And then you're gonna make a cut that goes diagonal, not all the way through. So I'll start that off by just, you're making a diagonal cut, but you're not going all the way through. And essentially what you're doing is making its face. So you made that cut on both sides, and you're making it almost looks like a bird's beak. And then the next thing you're gonna do is you're actually gonna push into the center at the bottom and make two little, almost like basically the legs of the fox. So you have it out like this after you made that cut, and then you're gonna push in and have the two legs. And you could even put your fingers at the bottom and to make them round. So you'll make them round too. And then this is where the paper clip comes in. So you've made the face and you've made the legs. And with the paper clip, or if you have tape, you could use tape as well. But you put the paper clip just at the bottom there, slide it in, and that will hold the legs together. And now you have the body. All right. So you have the two legs and you have the body. And then what you're going to do next, because remember we were talking about the ears and those supersonic ears. So we want to make the ears next. And you're going to push forward in the front and push forward in the back to when they kind of come together. So you're going to push down at the top on both sides toward that face and away, and toward the face and away from the face. So you'll start to see that the fox starts to have those ears. So it was coming straight up like that at the top, and you're just going to push the front forward, push the back forward till they meet. And it's okay if they don't fully meet, but you just want to have it so that we have some nice fox ears. So now it's starting to look like a fox. And this is the part where a fox, the color is really important. If I had this fox in that forest right now, you'd be able to see it right away. So we want to have some orange so it could blend into all the fallen leaves that are there. So I'm going to take some paint. I have some orange paint and I have a paintbrush, but if you have markers, you could use that as well. So I'm going to use a little bit of, or actually I'll put a big like dollop of orange, and I'm just going to paint everything orange to begin with. So every part of this, I'm going to paint orange. I'm going to paint, 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 paint. Oops. Both the front and the back. I'm going to paint the face. I'm going to paint all the way down. I'm going to paint at the top. So every surface, I'm just going to paint completely orange. So I'm going to do that all the way around so that I am basically covering the whole, my whole fox. And the whole fox at this point is going to be completely orange, but you'll see in a second how it starts to change and we can get some definition. So I'm going to go, oh, and actually, oh, I should have, one thing I forgot to do is the back. So there is the tail at the back. So if you haven't cut it, if you haven't painted yet, then you can take the, so I haven't cut the, I haven't painted the back yet. So I can make a tail at the back, and I'm going to make it wider at the bottom, and then toward the top, make it thinner. So I made it wide at the bottom and thin at the top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take scissors and just round out the bottom so it's a bushy tail at the bottom. So it's, you see it's a bushy tail at the bottom, and that it could come up. So we could see it at the front. We could see the tail come around on the back. So then you can continue finishing the orange paint. And you're going to get to this point, and take your time. You can, as we go up into the gallery, you can continue with this as well. So don't worry about it. You can also come back to it as well. So at this point, you have everything painted orange. So then what you're going to do is you can use the same paintbrush and just wash it off, or you can get another paintbrush and use white paint. And one thing that you could even see from behind me, the fox has a little bit of a white nose and kind of like white, kind of like a white beard in a way. So I'm gonna take the paint and paint the white on one side and then white on the other side. And you can make it a little bit curved like that. So we're starting to have a little bit of shape to this. And then you'll see a little bit in the picture of my fox behind me is a little bit of white on the ears as well. So I'm going to take a little bit of white and just a little dash of white on the ears. So now we have the white face and the white ears. And then I'm also going to take some white and I'm going to put some on its little paws. So I have little paws there on the two front legs. So at this point, you might want to, if you're doing this and you're taking your time, you might want to wait until all the paint is dry. You could wait a few minutes to let everything get dry. So, but you have all the paint in place that you need. And then the next part, the last part, Because how is this fox going to, the fox might have supersonic ears, but it also needs to see things too. So I'm going to use a black Sharpie, and I'm going to put a little eye there and a little eye there. So now my fox can see. And my fox also wants to smell too. So I'm going to put a little bit of a nose, a little black on the nose. And again, you might want to wait until it's dry to use the Sharpie. But I just want to give you a sense of what it's like now. And actually, I will do it with the one that I finished because this is dry. So you could just put the claws at the bottom with the paws too. And then also with the white paint, I keep forgetting the tail, probably because it's so far at the back. But also with the tail, you might want to put, you'll see in the fox behind me, there's a little white at the end of the tail. So you might want to put a little white at the end of your tail as well. So you have the eyes, you have the nose, you have the ears, and then you have the little paws too. All right, and then you have a fox. And what's nice about this is this fox actually stands up like that. So you could make many foxes. The one thing, the interesting thing about foxes is that they are related to dogs, but they are, where dogs are very social and wolves are very social, foxes are not very social. They like to be by themselves unless they have a family, and then they like to be together. And actually, the name of that is a leash or a skulk of foxes. When they're raising their family, a group of foxes together is a leash or a skulk, which I think are really nice names. So you could make a whole leash or a skulk of foxes to put in your, maybe on your bookcase, or you could just have a single fox. Maybe I would just have my single fox by my bookcase. So, and foxes are actually really great parents. Some animals are not as great parents, but the foxes are actually really great parents. So what we're going to do now is we can imagine we've made our fox, we've made our red fox, and again, no pressure. If you haven't made it yet, or you're waiting for it to dry, don't worry. That could also be a test, and you can come back and make some more. But I'm going to imagine my fox. I want to go explore the gallery with my little fox. Anyone have a name for this fox? If you want to put it in the chat or in the comment section, what should be the name of this fox? Because if I'm going to bring it up into the gallery, I want to have a name for it. And which is actually, the last thing I'll say before we go up is that foxes don't make the best pets. But there was a time actually in Jordan, they unearthed a grave in Jordan from 16,500 years ago. And inside there were the bones of a man and a pet fox. So as long ago as 16,000 years ago, foxes were pets. But nowadays, dogs are great pets. Foxes not so much. So Mr. Johnny, okay, so Emily says Mr. Johnny. Nicholas says that Nicola's fox is named Macy, and also Apple. So if I imagine that Macy and Apple are friends, I'll call this Mr. Johnny. So Mr. Johnny is going to come up to the gallery with me. So what I'm going to do is, this is the part where I need to switch over. So I'm going to use my camera, and Kim's going to help in case things don't work, but I think it will. We're going to use this camera, and I'm going to press it on, and it does this little fancy, woo, does this little fancy thing. And then now it's in the right direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my headphones and I'm going to put in my AirPods. This is all very fancy.
This is how the magic happens, everybody.
And I'm gonna turn off.
So, well, Chris is coming back to us. Everybody, you think it's going to work? It worked.
It worked. Yay. All right, and I also need my mask because we're gonna go up into the gallery. But I did want to, actually, Kim, I will make you, I know you're co-host, but I'll make you host just in case anything happens. All right.
I've got it.
Okay, great. And before we leave, I actually talked with our curator here at the museum, and he had a fox for me to use for this program. So I'm actually going to turn the camera around and show you a fox that we actually have from our collection. We don't have many foxes in our collection, but this is one of the foxes. And you might think, oh, it looks really flat. It's because it's not a taxidermy. So it's not the animal in the shape of what it is. It's actually just it's called a study skin of a fox. So you see the front paws. And an interesting thing about foxes is that they have 5 toes on the front and only 4 on the back, which is kind of interesting. And they actually walk on their toes too. So they're very elegant. They're almost like cats that way, how they walk. And it actually allows them to climb up into trees, where dogs don't really climb up into trees, but foxes do. And look at that really fluffy tail. And then this is actually the skull. These are the teeth. So we were talking about like what makes it, we talked about its ears, but another thing that makes it so like a superhero is look at those teeth. Look how sharp the teeth is. Actually the front tooth is coming down even like lower than the jaw. So it can, foxes are great predators, and it can chase a mouse and eat that. It could chase birds, it could chase rabbits, but it also likes to eat fruit and berries and grasses. So it likes to eat, it's called an omnivore. So it likes to eat both animals and plants. And you can really see like how it could use all the different parts of its teeth. And here is when we have the bones of the animal, there's different parts of the bones, like the shoulder, the scapula, the vertebra, and maybe some of the bones of the arms and the legs too. So it makes it really, really important way of understanding an animal. So it's kind of the interesting thing. And this actually, I was looking at the tag, and it said that it was collected in 1980 from Smithers, so up in the northern part of British Columbia. And yeah, so, and just so you know, we don't go out and kill animals like foxes. We would only have a fox in our collection is if it died and it was donated to us at the museum. So we have some foxes, we don't have a lot of foxes. So now I'm walking, and actually I realized I forgot to bring Mr. Johnny. So that's very important. So I'm gonna go back and get Mr. Johnny, it's very important. So Kim, I could be heard okay, right?
Yeah, we hear you really well. I thought
Okay,
that, thanks for sharing us that study skin and
yeah,
and skull. I thought the tail looked so warm. You talked about them wrapping up in their tail, and when you saw how fluffy that tail was, I thought, yeah, that looks like a really warm spot.
Yeah, that tail right there. And like many animals, you would it would depend on what the time of the year was. It could be more fluffy and less fluffy, depending on what the animal needed. So now I have Mr. Johnny. Good. What other observations did you have, Kim, of that? Or were there any other observations in the chat or the comments?
I didn't see any in the chat. So just a reminder, people can put stuff into the chat if they have questions or things they saw. I really thought the teeth were amazing. My goodness, so big. When you think of the whole size of the skull, those front teeth were really big.
Yeah. And I was surprised actually of how small the skull was. I just think of foxes are pretty relatively small, but the skull was pretty small.
I have a little dog, and I know he looks like he has a big head, and then when he gets wet, you see how small his head is. So I guess when you're looking at the picture of the fox, a lot of that is hair.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's so just for everyone to know that we're in the main lobby of the museum. So we're at the front. Oops, actually, I meant to switch. Oh yeah, so we're at the main lobby of the museum here, and we're gonna go up the escalator. We're gonna pass by our nice security guard. Hello. And then we're gonna go up the elevator. I think I saw a question come in,
Yes,
Kim, right?
I was just going to read that out for you, Chris. The question is from Nicolette. How many babies do foxes have?
Oh, that's a really great question. That's a great question. I did a lot of research and I didn't, I'm not sure if, Kim, if you could just quickly look that up.
In a litter, let's look up in a litter first.
Yeah.
Chris, one of the questions I was wondering, do you know what are the names of baby foxes? Are they called kits or pups or?
Yeah, kits.
The internet says a red fox has a litter of 1 to 10 kits between March and May every year.
Ah, there you go. Thank you, internet. So if you've been to the museum at all or lately, you'll know that I'm walking down the hallway here past our other very good friend, Wooly. His actually birthday is coming up very soon. So we'll have Mr. Johnny meet the woolly mammoth, Wooly, and then we'll continue on. We'll come around to where the forest is. Particularly are interested in the forest. Foxes are, they actually, one of the places that they love to live the most is just on the edge of the forest. They also like to come into neighborhoods and places where humans are, but they like the edge of forests. And they like forests as well. So when we're thinking about forests, it's really important to think about all the different layers of the forest too. So there is the canopy, the upper, the top part of the forest. I'm going to turn on a little light here. So the very top of the forest, and that's really helpful for forests, for the light hitting the leaves at the very top of the forest, and lots of the energy is gained from the light hitting the top of the trees. But there's also at the top of the trees, there's lots of birds and nests. So there's lots of living things at the top. And then at the forest floor, there's also lots of things happening, lots of trees, lots of growth, and lots of animals and insects as well.
So there's the canopy, there's the middle part, and then there's the forest floor, and then there's under the forest floor as well. And in this display, you could see, actually have the light. Usually you can't see it all this clearly, but these are some of the kinds of insects and things that crawl in the ground underneath the forest floor. And this right here, this big thing, is actually an earthworm. And we've created this display in such a way that they're much bigger. They're magnified 100 times its size. So everything in here is 100 times bigger in this display than it is in real life. But this is really important. Something like an earthworm like this is when the leaves and the branches and and animals even die and they're on the forest floor, eventually they start to decompose. And things like earthworms are super important in that process of helping to decompose the living matter that's on the forest floor to eventually become the rich nutrient soil of the forest that help the trees, help everything grow and be a healthy, vibrant place. So underneath the forest is really important. And then within the forest is really important as well. I just wanted to show a couple things here in the forest as we're looking. One of the things that, and I'm just going to be careful for Mr. Johnny here, because around the corner here, Mr. Johnny sees that cougar. And one of the things, Mr. Johnny as a fox, the red fox, is a great predator and might want to eat some of the birds that are in here and some of the mice that might be scurrying around on the forest floor. But the thing that it wants to keep away from is the cougar, because cougars will attack and prey on foxes. And also wolves, and also things like this. A grizzly bear would prey on a fox. The foxes are very fast, so they might, Mr. Johnny, I'm imagining, is keeping his distance, and also he might be able to run away from this grizzly bear. So one thing you notice right away, the last thing I'll sort of mention as we're looking at this forest floor, is that remember I was talking about all the leaves that come down and all the material that might be like leaves or branches or actually even dead animals that creates that rich soil that's really important to the overall health of an environment. And it creates the incredible diversity of plants and animals and trees in this area. Right here, you can see lots of different trees. And actually right across here, those big leaves there. Does anyone know what kind of plant that is? It's big leaf, and it actually smells. When you're walking in the forest, you could smell it before you could see it. Does anyone know what that could be? These big green leaves. And if it's flowering, you might see yellow too. Just past the grizzly bear. Skunk cabbage, that's right. Yeah, so there's skunk cabbage. Skunk cabbage loves the wet soil on a riverbed like this. And the other things that really love the soil, the forest floor, and especially love a place like this with the stream, because when there is a stream, there is light that comes up through. A lot of times with the forest, it's just really dark. But with a stream like this, some light comes through, and red alders right here, they love this kind of environment by a stream because they want to get some light, and they like being able to be by the stream. They love the rich soil, but they also love the light that's coming up down a stream like this. So we have, even in this forest diorama, so many different kinds of environments. This represents actually 5 different parts of British Columbia. So there's 5 different kinds of forests, from very dark, very large trees that block out of a lot of light, but also has lots of water in terms of rain and snow, to all the way to where Kim and I are, and some of you probably as well, around Victoria and the Gulf Islands, where it's more dry. And there's more things like what we're looking at right now, both arbutus and Gary oak trees, and you start to see more forests and meadows and a drier climate. So forests are really fascinating, really interesting. And our friend, Mr. Johnny, is very happy to live in all of these kind of environments. And I'm really happy that you were able to join us. And I hope you're able to, if anyone made a fox, we'd love to see it. Kim, if you don't mind putting my email address in the chat and in the comment section, please send a picture of your fox. We'd love to see the foxes that you made. And after that, you should bring your fox to the museum and show your fox around the museum like I am today. So thank you so much for joining us today for sort of tour around the forest of the Royal BC Museum. Really hope that you enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy your time out in either museum forest or a forest within your neighborhood and your community. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Chris. Such a cute fox you made. Bye, Mr. Johnny.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks for your help.